On a quiet day in March 1969, the man who had a commanding hand in defeating Hitler and guided America for 8 years took his final breath. He was a 5-star general and a 2-term president. But in his final moments, all he wanted was his wife. Today we are taking you behind the headlines by using rare archival footage. We'll trace the incredible final journey of Dwight D. Eisenhower, from his deathbed in Washington to a unique burial ceremony in his simple hometown of Abilene, Kansas. When Dwight D. Eisenhower left the White House in 1961, he was already a medical marvel. Despite the immense stress of commanding World War II and running the country, he had battled serious health issues for years. His heart was a major concern, suffering from what doctors called coronary artery disease. The most famous incident occurred in September 1955, when he suffered a major heart attack while vacationing in Denver, Colorado. This event shocked the nation, but Eisenhower's recovery and return to the office demonstrated his remarkable resilience. It set a new, often stressful precedent for public transparency regarding presidential health. It's a powerful story, and if you want the full details, we have a comprehensive video on our channel covering that Denver event, including a personal tour of the refurbished hospital room where he recovered. Go check it out later. Interesting side note. First Lady Mamie Eisenhower grew up in Denver, Colorado. The Eisenhowers were often visiting Mamie's parents' home. That home she grew up in is still there and is a historical landmark. Let's stop for a moment to check out this amazing archival find of an Eisenhower 1952 I Like Ike televised campaign ad.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John or Dean or Harry, let's do that big job right. Just get in step with the guy that's hep, get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We got to get where we are going, travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way, we'll all go with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington, we'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
In the years following his presidency, Eisenhower's health continued its steady, slow decline. By late 1968, he was admitted to the Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C., where he remained until the end. This was fitting, as Eisenhower's entire adult life had been spent in military service. He was no longer the sitting president, having passed the torch to John F. Kennedy years earlier, but he remained the general. His wife, Mamie Eisenhower, and his family maintained a constant vigil. of the early morning hours of March 28, 1969, the general gave his final order. With his family around him, his very last words, according to his son John, were simply, quiet, and profoundly moving. "I've always loved my wife. I want to go." He passed away at 12:50 p.m., bringing an end to the life of one of the 20th century's most defining figures. As a 5-star general of the Army and a former commander-in-chief, Eisenhower was given a week-long state funeral with the highest honors. The entire city of Washington, D.C. was transformed into a place of mourning. This rare archival footage captures the incredible atmosphere. His flag-draped casket, attended by a military honor guard, was first transported to the U.S. Capitol Rotunda to lay in state. The ceremony here was steeped in tradition, with the casket placed on the same catafalque built for Abraham Lincoln. Attending the ceremony were dignitaries and VIPs from around the world, such as Gerald Ford, Vice President Spiro Agnew, and the Shah of Iran. Once the casket was placed, Nixon read the eulogy. Hundreds of thousands of Americans filed past the casket, paying their last respects. The line stretched for blocks, sometimes for miles, demonstrating the immense personal connection Americans felt to Ike. Before the ceremony at the Capitol Rotunda, the body laid in repose for 28 hours at the Bethel Chapel in the Washington National Cathedral. After the Rotunda event, the casket was carried to the hearse to return to the Washington National Cathedral for an Episcopal funeral service. There were 2,107 people in attendance, each admitted by a ticket. The casket was an $80 government issue casket requested by Eisenhower himself. The only difference between his casket and those furnished for any soldier buried by the Army is an inner glass seal that cost an extra $115. It was lined with Taylor eggshell crepe material. The general was buried in his World War II uniform. It consists of pink trousers and the gray Ike jacket that he made so famous. Although he was one of the most decorated military men in history, his uniform had only the following medals: the American Distinguished Service Medal with 3 olive leaf clusters, the Navy Distinguished Service Medal, and the Legion of Merit. The funeral procession itself was a colossal event. The route was lined with servicemen and citizens, watching in solemn silence. The sheer scale of the military honor guard was a testament to his service. World leaders traveled to Washington to attend the service and the National Cathedral, including figures like the French president, the German chancellor, and representatives from nearly 100 countries. It was a massive demonstration of global gratitude for the man who had led the Allied forces to victory in World War II. He was a true American hero that deserved the honor of the American people and the world. Two people I noticed that were absent from the footage of the Eisenhower and Nixon family was President Eisenhower's grandson, David, and President Nixon's daughter, Julie, although they were there. On December 22, 1968, Julie Nixon and David Eisenhower tied the knot in New York City. Julie and David met at the Republican National Convention in San Francisco, California in 1956, where his grandfather, Ike, was campaigning for re-election. They were both 8 years old at the time. At the convention, Julie's father was nominated as Eisenhower's running mate. The two were frequently thrown together during Eisenhower's second term and shared the unusual experience of growing up under the spotlight of national politics. They started dating in 1967 when they were both 19. At the time, they were seen as wholesome and the ideal all-American couple. During this time, the nation was undergoing a countercultural revolution, and traditional family and relationship roles were being challenged. Nixon was quoted as describing his daughter and her fiancé as frontline troops in the battle to reestablish traditional virtues, particularly during his 1968 presidential campaign. David and Julie are still married and have written books on their experiences. Ike and Mamie did not attend their grandson's wedding to Julie Nixon. Both were hospitalized in Washington, D.C. at the time. He was recouping from a series of heart attacks, and Mamie was being treated for an upper respiratory infection. A special closed-circuit TV was set up at Walter Reed Hospital so the Eisenhowers could watch the ceremony privately. During the wedding reception, President-elect Richard Nixon read a telegram from Eisenhower congratulating the couple. He passed away a few months later on March 28, 1969. In a deeply touching and traditional gesture, Eisenhower's body was not flown home. Instead, he made the final symbolic leg of his journey by funeral train back to his quiet hometown of Abilene, Kansas. This was a final nod to the history books, echoing the funerals of great Americans past. The 3-day, 1,400-mile journey became a spontaneously organized cross-country visual. Along the hundreds of miles of track, ordinary Americans lined up by the thousands. Families gathering at small-town train stations, veterans saluting from overpasses, and farmers pausing their work to stand in the fields. It was an astonishing silent outpouring of public grief and respect. In some places, local fire departments raised their ladders and draped flags over the tracks. In others, school children held signs. This journey emphasized the deep connection the American heartland felt to the man who rose from a simple Kansas background to become Supreme Commander. It was a final, humble tribute to a man who never forgot where he came from. The funeral train finally arrived in Abilene, where the somber mood continued. Here the ceremony was simpler, more personal, and deeply rooted in the heartland values Eisenhower represented. It was a stark contrast to the massive pomp of the Washington ceremony. The service was held near his family home. The sitting president, Richard Nixon, who had served as Eisenhower's vice president, was a key attendee, honoring his mentor and friend. Eisenhower's final resting place is a beautiful, intimate stone structure called the Place of Meditation Chapel, located right on the Presidential Library grounds. The chapel was constructed specifically to house the remains of the former president, his wife, Mamie, and their firstborn son, Dwight Eisenhower, who died of scarlet fever at the age of 3 in 1921. It was Eisenhower's wish to be buried alongside his son, ensuring that even in death, the family remains together. The chapel's simple design reflects the character of the man it honors. Today, the Dwight D. Eisenhower Presidential Library, Museum, and Boyhood Home stands as a testament to his enduring legacy. When you visit, you can walk through the simple two-story frame house where the future Supreme Commander grew up. Next door stands the grand modern structure of the library and museum. It holds a vast collection of his military artifacts and some unique personal items. On our way to the meditation chapel at the Eisenhower Library, President Eisenhower and Mamie are entombed inside this meditation chapel. So there's actually 3 people entombed here. This is President Eisenhower right here. This is Mamie right here. And somewhere here also is their son that died in 1921 of scarlet fever. He was only 3 years old at the time, and he died in Ike's arms. I also have a chapel up here where you can meditate and pray. And they also have wonderful bells that ring outside. And then the Eisenhowers are right behind this wall. The passing of Dwight D. Eisenhower closed a chapter of American history. From five-star general to president, his legacy is one of steady leadership and quiet strength. We have several other great videos on our channel about his life, including his famous heart attack in Denver, Colorado, and his famous trip across the country in the rough-riding transcontinental motor convoy of 1919. We highly encourage you to check them out. Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to watch all our videos from famous funerals to diving into the archives to find generations of history.